Good morning, folks. We're back out at Dad's shop and we're going to put the McCormick Deering back together today. I got the new fuel tank for it. And when you set it next to the other one, it looks like it'll work. It's a plastic tank I ordered from Flywheel Supply. And this has got brackets welded on. This has got brass nutserts in there to put these brackets on it. Brass fittings on every place that a fitting goes into the tank. Over on this side is drain. And then this fitting has an air vent on this side and a pickup tube on that side, so we need to make sure we get it threaded back in there in the right direction. But it looks pretty good. I'm going to change over the fittings that I have to change over from one tank to the other, and then we're going to see if we can get it stuck back in there. The side that's the tank vent just has an opening right there for the tank vent, and then the smaller side that's the pickup tube has a tube that goes down to the bottom of the tank. I'm kind of surprised there's no filter of any sort on there, but I mean, it's worked since 1931, so apparently it's not a big issue. That should be everything that I have to save off of that tank. Since I already crushed the other fitting getting it apart, I just bought some new pipe fittings for that and for another part that I broke when I was taking it apart. Alright, when we put this back in there, we got to make sure that the vent side ends up on the same side over here as the drain. And I already forgot which one's the vent side. The vent side is the larger fitting. The smaller fitting is the fuel pickup. The larger one's the vent. So we gotta line the larger hole up with the. Oof, that's gonna get tight quick, but I think it'll go another 3/4 of the turn. I hate to put too much pressure on it going into plastic, but I also don't want to leave it loose, so let's see if we can. That wasn't too bad. I think we'll get another half turn out of it, and then we'll call that good enough. Yeah. Directions. Locate and install the L brackets on the end of the gas tank. Pay close attention to the orientation of the tank and the longer brackets. Install the longer brackets to the end closest to the fill neck. So that's the fill neck, and that's the two brackets. So you got to put the longer bracket on the end close to the fill neck. And it says install a special T fitting, so I'm already done it wrong. I put the special T fitting in first before I did step 1. Orientate so the large hole is towards the drain side of the tank. I did get that right. Set the tank in the engine, attach the fill neck, screw the large T fitting into the side of the engine block, screw the small pipe T fitting through the opposite side of the engine block. And then it says you may now at this point, start over. You may now be at this point of extreme cussing and displeasure getting the fittings to align through the small holes in the side of the engine block. You may need to adjust the T-fitting up or down to help align correctly. Putting one pipe in, then the other, or reverse might help also. And it says farther down here, the holes in the block are just cored holes from the foundry. We took laser scans of millions of tiny measurements when designing the tanks and found that the holes moved as much as a ½ inch from one block to another. This can make getting everything aligned tricky. So that sounds hopeful that it ought to just go real smooth trying to get everything back in there and put together.
Sounds like about anything I build.
Alright, let's try this again. At least it's fun getting up and down off the floor, in and out from underneath it here. Don't usually get to see that part of the engine up inside of there. Maybe if I come at it from the exact same angle for a third time, it'll be better this time.
Okay, I'm gonna come over and hold that.
You say that's not better. Hopefully that giant drop of oil that tried above my face doesn't drop in my eye or my mouth. Well, that's funny. Well, that would roll right down there, all the way out the front of the engine. Yeah, putting it in a socket doesn't work either. I can see right in there. In theory, it should just go right in. But once you get in there, there's no room to move your fingers. Okay, plan C. I'm going to have to lift up the back of this motor a little bit, put a small block underneath there to hold it up so that I can get my fingers in there. There's just not enough room to move. Watch out, there's a lot of motor in the way out here.
Yeah, there is.
I think we can just lift it up with these boards again and slide that 2x4 in underneath there on edge. I'll push it up and just slide the 2x4 in like that, like off to one side a little bit, because I'm going to have to get right in the middle of it. Uh-oh. Oh, well, who would have ever thought that that board would break right there? This ought to do it. Now, let me get another bite here. Move to this side a little bit more. There we go. I think I can reach right up to the back here. It's just fingers. I saw a swamp thing grow an entire arm back one time, so. Alright, I think that this is the bracket right here. Goes right up in there. I think maybe I could reach it from the back side back here now. Possibly, maybe. I just gotta find what I did with the bolt. Here it is. Alrighty.
Apparently this tank is bottoming out on this end because it don't fit through the hole very good now. Very close. That's very good.
Well, now I can't see the hole at all, but I can certainly get my fingers in there. There, I can feel it. It's right there. The bolt can't feel it, but my fingers can. There we go. There we go. That's all the tighter. I'm going to tighten that up because I can get a wrench in to turn it when it's set down flat. As long as the wrench is skinnier than my fingers.
We'll look back down.
Yep, I think that'll just fall out when I hit this up. There's a lot of adjustment. That hole looks like it's lined up perfect, and that one looks like it's lined up pretty good. I'm not putting any sealer on this drain because it's threaded into a brass fitting, so it should, well, start right in there. Should tighten up and seal well. There she goes. Now it feels like it's threading in there. God. Well, I'll get a pair of pliers. Turn that around to where it's facing up, and that'll be good enough, and then we'll get the fittings on the other side put in. It does look from the front like the big pipe that goes in the front is going to be fairly close to being lined up. I'm going to stop right there. You can see when you look down here, the fitting inside of there looks like it's off to one side a little bit, but I'm sure I can scooch that over. Maybe we'll try to get the first fitting of that just loosely threaded in there before we start over here on the other side on the fuel fittings. There we go. Well, start it in there. And would you look at that one? Look in the hole on this side. The fitting is right there. So with any luck, that'll thread right back in there. Alrighty. We got the fitting coming out the side of the tank, going back down to the fuel pump. I never even loosened that one up, going up to the carburetor, so that should be good. I got the vent plumbed in and got the drain going in there. The drain still needs snugged up good, but it's in the hole. Now I need to get my plumbing put back together on the filler and the fuel return coming back from the carburetor. Okay, I went ahead and put Teflon tape on all the fittings that are steel to steel connections here. Well, this is why we never throw anything away. The fitting right there coming out the end of the fill tube for the return line, the threads were shot on that fitting. We went out and got that old coffee can out and started digging through it and had a fitting the correct size here, so I've switched that out now. Now I can tighten up both ends of that line and put my fill line and cap back on there, and then I can tighten everything down good. Okay, all the fittings are tight. Now I just gotta tighten up the bolts that go into the tank on that front fitting, and then tighten up the 2 bolts that go up into the casting of the engine to hold it in there. But everything's threaded in good and tight. I feel like it probably should not leak. Now let's see if she holds fuel or not. I certainly hope so. The fuel tank vent's apparently working a lot better too, because before I used to have to trickle the gas in here, now I'm just dumping it right in, so that'll be an improvement. Okay, I don't have all of the bolts bolting this down to the cart back in there, but I'm going to just stick the 2 that go in the back holes back in there and tap them down with a hammer. Make sure the front ones are down all the way. It's not going to jump off of the cart anyway. There we go. We'll get Dad's broken screwdriver in there to pry that back over where the holes line up. Make sure all 4 of those are tapped down, and that will be good enough to get it started for today. This motor doesn't jump around too bad. Turn my oiler on. Give the grease cups each a little turn real quick. I made a fitting on my fuel coming up here that I can take this plug out. Maybe take that plug out of there, and I can take a jug with some gasoline in it, just flip it right upside down in there, and that'll prime my carburetor with fuel, and it primes that line going back down to the fuel pump down here, so that you don't have to wait for it to get fuel pulled out of the tank, because now it's going to have to pull fuel up out of the tank through that line and pump it all the way up here before we're getting any fuel. This works out really good after it's been setting for a long time. You can just fill up the bowl of the carburetor and fill that tube, and usually it starts up pretty easily. I'll have Dad hold on to the camera here. We'll see if this thing will start. Put that lever up to retard the timing, make sure spark plug wires hooked up. Oh yeah, I gotta open up my fuel valve. That wasn't too hard after setting since last September, and it's the end of June now. I'll just let it feed out of that bottle for another minute, because it's priming the fuel pump down here and pumps the fuel out of the tank and all the way up through that hose. So I'll just let it run for a minute off of that primer jug. Pull that out of there, and I'm sure the camera may not be able to see it, but you can actually see the fuel in there. So if it maintains the level of fuel in there, you know that it's pumping now. And put my little plug back in there. That was pretty good for setting as long as I had. Set that down for a second. There we go. There's another one repaired. I mean, it still ran before. It just leaked fuel the whole time I was running, but now it's not leaking any fuel. Got a drain valve on the tank, so when we're done with it for the year, we can just open it up and drain the rest of the gas out. We don't have to deal with rotten gas in it. That's always been a good running motor. It'll start up and sit there and run all day long if you keep fuel in it. There we go. Thank you all for watching. Please consider hitting the subscribe button, hit like, leave a comment below. Come back next week. We'll have something for you. Thanks for watching.